Coming up next on the Breadwinning Mums.
Sometimes when I'm hanging out the washing in suburbia and waking up to children vomiting in the middle of the night, I'm like, oh my gosh, I swear I used to be so cool once, living the dream. I really was living the dream in my 20s. I was staying at the Hilton Arc de Triomphe. I was like, going to bars and clubs on the Champs-Elysees. And how I landed hanging out the washing in the burbs and cleaning up vomit at 1 a.m.
Welcome to the show. I'm Jane Lim. On the Breadwinning Mums podcast, we debunk the myths of working mums, cheer each other on, and show the world that it's okay to be a mum and still pursue excellence in your chosen area of expertise. Today, we're chatting with Megan Kair, a fellow breadwinning single mum with 2 girls, Olivia and Rosie. Megan is the Director of Development at Opera Queensland. She shared with us her life story about growing up in regional Queensland and Gold Coast, traveling the world as a flight attendant, and working for the King of Bahrain and Prime Minister of Lebanon before going back to Gold Coast to start her family. Here we go with Megan Kair. Hello, Megan. How are you?
Hi, Jane. I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Not too bad. Almost the end of the day. I was going to say almost the end of the week, but it's not. It's only Tuesday.
That's wishful thinking. It's okay. As long as we think like that, we're nearly there.
That's right. One day at a time. It's almost the end, and then tomorrow it all starts again.
That's right. Deja vu, except no 2 days are the same, really, are they?
Yeah, no. Thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate it. I thought we would just start with just telling us a little bit more about yourself.
Sure. Well, I guess you could say I'm a Queensland girl that's had lots of adventures. I spent a lot of my childhood in regional Queensland. My dad was a policeman and ended up in charge of 2-man police stations, and the watch house was connected to our house at the time back in the day. And my mum had the honour of cooking all the meals for anyone that spent any time in the watch house and cleaning the police station. But we then were relocated to the Gold Coast, and that's where I spent most of my upbringing as a GC girl, and obviously have a lot of fond memories and loved being brought up on the Gold Coast, I have to say. And I'm a proud alumnus of Star of the Sea that used to be there. And then we went co-ed with Aquinas College, and then I did my tertiary education on the Gold Coast at Griffith University. So really feel a connectivity to all of those schools and universities. And then, of course, I did my degree and realised that I was probably never going to be a journalist. And so I did what all 21-year-old girls seeking adventure do that had done the wrong degree. I decided to go and be a flight attendant overseas. So,
wow.
I went at the age of 21 overseas and promised my parents that I would return in 6 months. And 10 years later, after living 10 years between the Middle East and Paris, I finally did return home to the GC.
So you must have grown up in would it be a strict environment then with your dad as the head of police?
Yes, it definitely felt at times like he didn't really leave that at home. It was like my sister and I were brought up with a little bit of military sergeant major influence. And so but my mum was very soft and very caring, and and she obviously brought a huge balance into our upbringing, and she really a lot of times played mum and dad to my sister and I most of the time of our upbringing.
I would imagine it would deter a lot of teenage boys as well. Was that the case with you guys? Or did you have to say, no, it's okay. Dad's not going to shoot you?
Look, I would say that, my mum says that most of her grey hairs over the years have been acquired through me. However, I would definitely say that in high school, it was really all about enjoying school, and I didn't really go boy crazy. So I didn't really relate to boys as much. I really missed actually going to my all-girls school that I had gone to before it shut down. I didn't really feel as big a investment, or it wasn't as relative to me, or it didn't mean as much to be going to a co-ed school. I really missed that all-girls school education, and I found that to be such a valuable experience when I did have it. But then again, once I went to university, then yes, it was very much a lot less about the tertiary education and all about the boys. And so I'm sure that's where a lot of the grey hairs that my mum refers to were acquired.
And your dad was still the head of police then at the time?
So my dad had then a very, very senior role in Gold Coast Police, but my mum and dad actually divorced when I was 15, and so Dad became a lot less in our lives, and Mum remained to be, very much the sole parent that she sort of had always been, even when they were married, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So it probably wasn't as prohibitive as I thought it would be.
I know. It probably was a lot easier to negotiate and win with Mum.
Yeah, with your mum. Yeah.
Than it would have been with my father at the time.
And so when you finally decided to leave Australia and be the flight attendant, was there any specific career that you were after, or was it just for any opportunity?
Well, in the beginning, my girlfriends and I obviously thought that we would end up flying for the creme de la creme, which was Emirates at the time. But with all of our determination, we ended up, sadly landing with Gulf Air, which was a little bit known as the poor cousin. However, I was put in with a batch of about 10 other Aussie girls, and our batch number was called AB615. And that group of women, majority of them have gone on to remain and be lifelong friends. And actually, two of them have been godparents to my two little girls. And
oh, beautiful.
We've all been at each other's weddings, and we've all lived through the trials and tribulations now in our mid to late 40s of what life had in store for us. We always knew, we would always say we know what we don't want, but we're just not sure what we do want. But I think we've broken every list of everything we said we'd never accept or put up with or go through. And we really have all been there for each other in the best of times and the toughest of times. And so so Gulf Air and Bahrain was where I landed at the tender age of 21. I had only been overseas to Vanuatu at the age of 19. So it was a massive eye-opener. Yeah. And then within sort of the first year or so of us working for Gulf Air, I don't really know how much we all liked Gulf Air. I think there were a lot of sick days taken maybe, but we definitely loved the fact that we had landed on Fantasy Island, and we loved Bahrain, and we loved our community of hosties that we all had so much fun with, and we loved the London overnights, and we loved Italy and Paris. Just not sure if we were that crash hot on how then we'd have to get there, and the long haul flights we'd have to work to get there. But then by chance, just timing is so key in life. But there was a new king of Bahrain, and he had bought himself a brand new 747 palace in the sky, and he was looking to recruit Australian and South African crew and captains to work that plane. And so I was lucky enough with some of my girlfriends that we were lucky enough to get the positions on that crew, and we went on then to fly with the Bahrain Royal Flight for the next few years. And that really was just the most amazing experience. And it was an education that money can't buy, but it's stories to tell my grandkids, and it's experiences that I will forever be grateful for.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's with King Hamad bin
Yes, that was the King of Bahrain. And then after I had worked with the Royal Flight for a few years and realised that, I loved that line of work so much that I was then fortunate enough to be recruited into to work on the biggest privately owned plane in the world at the time, which was a 777, and that was owned by the Prime Minister of Lebanon, Rafik Hariri. And I mean, the best, most amazing thing for a girl from the GC was that all the crew, we were based in Paris. And
nice.
Yeah, so living and working in Paris for the next 3 years will forever remain a highlight of my life. And I, sometimes when I'm hanging out the washing in suburbia and waking up to children vomiting in the middle of the night, I'm like, oh my gosh, I swear I used to be so cool once, living the dream. I really was living the dream in my 20s. I was staying at the Hilton Arc de Triomphe. I was like, going to bars and clubs on the Champs-Elysees. And how I landed hanging out the washing in the burbs and cleaning up vomit at 1 a.m.
At least you have those memories to go back to, Megan. Could be worse.
Absolutely. And life has to move on in stages, like I knew that at the age of 30 that I was always going to come home and endeavour to really build a corporate career. And I wanted to settle down. I wanted to have children, and I wanted to do that back at home. And I sort of knew, my mum always says that she knew I had gotten homesick after 10 years when I would say to her, I'm looking out at the Eiffel Tower from my bedroom and I really wish it was the Q1. And so that's how you know that, it's time for the girls from the GC to go home.
How was life with the royal family? Was there any, I'm sure, wealth aside, at the fundamental levels, was there any difference between how they are as a family and, the average breezy family?
Look, I would say that the number one thing that I always took with me when working for any of the families that employed me was that with different cultures in different countries was that I was there as a visitor. I was there as a guest. And it was actually, and I was very honoured to be able to witness their lives and be a part of that from a distance, from an observation capacity. And obviously, just really begin to have an understanding, a deeper understanding and respect for their culture and their beliefs and their way of life. And that has only ever made me more enriched in my own life, and to always have such a broader understanding of people all over the world is only ever going to benefit myself and my children, is into how we look and view the rest of the world. And there's nothing more special than having friends all over the world with different beliefs and different cultures, and we're all connected through friendship.
That's beautiful. Talking about children, did you always know that you were going to be a mom?
Yes, I always knew. And clearly my ovaries would never let me rest until. So I definitely, my biggest ambition in life was to always be a mum. And I'm so glad that I did have that commitment to that role, because I was really going to need it. My eldest daughter, Olivia, she's 10, and she was, what we saw as the greatest gift ever after years of an IVF journey. And obviously, all women that have to struggle with fertility, and especially IVF, understand the heartbreak, the constant heartbreak that goes with an IVF journey, and and the miscarriages and the failed attempts and everything. Your whole day revolves around an egg collection and what that
hormonal roller coaster as well. Yeah,
I know, absolutely. And so it's all about giving those needles from hip bone to hip bone, and really getting high on hormones. So there are so many layers to it, and I still truly believe that it's still far more taboo than it should be in this country. And I always welcome conversation around joining other women with their fertility journeys and the real challenges and heartbreak that come with that, and to be able to give understanding and love and support to anyone going through that is always something that I love to be a part of.
That's great. Thank you so much for sharing. I was just discussing that with my previous guest, actually, Elisa Green, and we were talking about how infertility and miscarriages is something that we should talk more about, because it is a very commonplace occurrence, but it shouldn't deter us from talking about it and encouraging each other for, just keep on trying. If it is something that is really important to you, it will happen in one form or another. It's
absolutely.
Okay.
Totally. And I think for men as well, I think
yes,
the men on the journey of IVF struggling and finding it hard, it's even more taboo. If it's even people just assume that it's related to a woman's infertility, rather than the fact that it's actually just as much related to a man's infertility, that as a couple you're going through this. And I think that the most amazing thing about women is that we do process stress. We process what we're going through. We talk to our girlfriends. It's very much a shared journey when we're going through it. And I don't believe that men are sharing what they go through and processing it ever in real time. And so that's something that as Australians, I would love for us to really work more on.
That's right. So men, if you're listening, you can talk about it, and it's totally fine.
Totally fine to have fertility challenges, and to also have broken hearts, and to feel it just as much. Absolutely. I guess after then finally getting our greatest gift ever in Olivia, and being so grateful to have this one baby. I mean, I think I'd always thought that I was going to have 3 or 4, and then I really had to rethink that goal, and I just wanted one, and I just used to think, oh, please let me have one. And then I got one, and I felt like everything was complete. And then the universe had a bigger story ready for me. And so then when Liv was 8 months old and had just started crawling, and I started to again feel very, very ill, and I was like,
This is familiar.
This is very familiar. I suffered terribly with illness all through my pregnancies. And yes. And so I was like, oh, I know what this feeling feels like, but could it be? Like, after all these years of science and poking and prodding and surrendering to the fact that, one baby was more than enough to be grateful for, of course. I went to the shops and did what felt about 25 home pregnancy tests, and they were all positive. And so then we were given our greatest natural surprise ever. And that was our beautiful second daughter, Rosie. And Rosie is 9. And I had these 2 babies under 2. You know, I had just gotten my biggest promotion ever at work. And I had taken a year off and really wanted to totally embrace motherhood and really surrender to what that looked like. And then I went back from my maternity leave, pregnant with Rosie, to tell my boss at the time that you're not going to believe this. And I mean, I was working for and with the most amazing women that still to this day are my mentors and my closest friends. And, you know, I had Deputy Vice Chancellor, Professor Marilyn McMenamin at the time as my boss. And, you know, what a wonderful person to not only have admired but worked for, and to be able to share the news that I was pregnant again and would be taking a little bit more time off than what had been expected. And of course then, and Lee to Brett was also a very close colleague and mentor at the time, and they both saw absolutely no issue with it whatsoever.
Brilliant. What were you doing at the time? What was your role?
At the time, I had just been appointed as Deputy Director of Development and Alumni for Griffith University. And this was a role that I had worked really hard to get to, and I loved it. And so, you know, so then it was all about how I was going to navigate that. I was going to come back quicker with Rosie, obviously, and how I was going to slowly come back from a part-time capacity to a full-time capacity. And, you know, fortunately for me at the time, and they still continue to be, Griffith University was the #1 employer choice for women. And, you know, this was testimony to how amazing they are to want a career and be ambitious and be driven, and also still have the absolute right to start a family.
So you mentioned that you've always known that you were going to be a mom. Did you always know that you were going to be a career woman?
No, I definitely didn't. But part of what motherhood gave me and my IVF journey gave me was that most of the women around me at the time were either getting pregnant or on maternity leave. And so, you know, it just by chance happened that these opportunities really opened up for me, and I could still pull 12-hour days, and I could still really say yes to everything. And so whatever came my way as an opportunity to prove myself and to deliver and exceed expectations, you know, my roles at Griffith University really became my babies that I didn't yet have. And so I was able to really build an impressive career at Griffith University that really allowed me to challenge myself and really allowed me to know that without a doubt, one day I want to, you know, I want to be the best at what I do, but I want to be the boss. I want to be able to create strategies and make decisions and be accountable for what that looks like, and really create dynamic, diverse teams with huge skill sets and take us places. And for all the women that Griffith University provided me with to work for or to work with, the one thing that they really instilled in me was that there was enough room at the top for us all to shine.
Nice.
And so the fact that I was able to build that mentorship of women, or those guardian angels of my career, early on in the process, starting with Griffith University and having them truly show me that their belief that there was enough room at the top for all of us, it really started to instill in me the confidence that I needed to know my value.
So you have Liv, who is 10, and Rosie, who is 9. What is the the average day for you at the moment? What's life for you right now?
Life is probably what I'd call a beautiful chaos with all the best intentions. I am very routine driven. And that really is just to combat then the variables that are out of my control that are always going to happen. There's always going to be a sick little person in the house, or there's always going to be something that gets forgotten last minute and it has to be raced up, or a free dress day that I only learn about minutes before. But being recently separated and entering into a new world now as a single mum, and having a big job that I love. And it really is also about being kind to myself. And the girls come first, but my career allows me to be able to never feel in conflict of that. And so I definitely work smarter, not harder. And I really am very disciplined about what's important and what's not. And so, you can't cut corners in my job to raise a couple of $1 million. And you really need to put in the time to have meaningful relationships with corporate partners and with our donor community. And that's the priority. And that drives the highest, highest and best use of my time for the best outcomes. And being a mum, my number one role is, I always find that if I can find time to do one tuck shop shift or one class reading group, that will far outweigh anything the girls care about over anything that I professionally achieve. That is their biggest highlight. And so I'm very aware of that, and I'm very aware of how important that is to them and how much that resonates, because for all of the KPIs or targets that I achieve in my professional life, none of those matter to the two most important people in my life. And so I do definitely focus on what matters to them as well.
Nice. So do you have a certain mummy KPIs then that you have on the back of your mind?
Oh my gosh, I would love to think that it's about it's being real and raising happy and loved children. I think that's the best thing for me. Like, I love it when the girls go to school because they love school and they're happy, without any expectation. I never discuss with them their grades. It's not about the grades they achieve. It's about the comments that are left by their teachers, and it's about the positive friendships that they form. And it's so also about the boundaries that they can create for themselves from now. I think back in the day when I was growing up, you were always told if a boy was being mean to you, it was because he liked you. And that is such a foreign concept now to the two girls that I'm raising, and their peers and their friendships and their male friends as well. So I love the fact that the girls are being raised in an era where they're being taught what not to tolerate, what choices to make about the people that make them feel good about themselves and that are kind to them, and that, having a positive can-do attitude will take them so much further than ever holding themselves accountable to not being good enough because they didn't get the grade that, might make them think that that's what's important when it's not.
So you mentioned that you recently separated.
Yes.
Do you have the girls with you full time, or?
I do have the girls with me majority of the time. And so, but I mean, as a disclaimer, I have always been quite used to juggling the girls at times by myself, because their dad for most of their life was fly in, fly out. And so people used to say that I must have been high on hormones when, I realized when I came back from having Rosie that I was still so ambitious and had such a drive. And so I also realized that as deputy director, I wasn't going to get to the next stage of my career as a director unless I made sacrifices. And one of the biggest things that women need, to get far as well, that is a luxury for men most of the time that we don't always have, is the ability to move for your next career. And so I decided that, yes, I wanted this. And so then I started to actively look. And then I landed the most amazing role as Executive Director of Development at the Queensland Performing Arts Centre. And so I moved with these a little 2- and 3-year-olds. I had no family and friends in Brisbane, and I had their dad that was based in regional Queensland, 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off.
Oh, wow.
And,
okay.
I look back now and think, oh my goodness, what was I thinking? And, and we were talking so it was easy to just do 2 to 4 nights at the theatre, and then you would be back in the office the next day. But I was always very disciplined to make sure that in between that day operational part of the role to the opening night hosting in the theatre role, I would always go home and make sure that I was there for dinner time before they would go down for bed. And a lot of my girlfriends would be like, Megsy, you're back at work when they're asleep. Like, don't be so hard on yourself. And so I was really dedicated to making sure that I was there for the moments that mattered, and I wasn't so hard on myself. The fact that I couldn't be there for the moments when they were sleeping, let's say.
Yeah. And also still have a little bit of time just for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I feel that, I feel it's so important to have a strong sisterhood, a strong village around you. And so my me time really is when I get to have quality time with my girlfriends. And, I really see that is all about, that's one of my biggest hacks really, is if you've got your sisterhood to give you your sanity, your support and your sauve blanc, then, then consider yourself
you'll be fine.
Lucky, and you'll be fine.
Yeah. And these are still the same ladies that you went abroad with?
No, I forever. So yes, they all AB615 still exist in my life. And actually we just had our most recent reunion a few weekends ago, and they never disappoint. But I think it's really important as women that we always keep evolving and we keep open to new friendships, and we let new people in and new women in, and we keep learning together, and that we're always there for each other. The one thing that has definitely contributed to me being able to have a successful career and, having to be so committed to motherhood and all that entails is really having a community. And so community is key to everything that I do. And there's so many amazing men and women within my community where we all have demanding careers, but we all have children. And so we all come together to help with pickups, to help with drop-offs, to coordinate what it's going to look like to be in 2 places at once with sports on a weekend, or, to really just have a complete understanding for each other as to how we can all come together and help and be part of the solution. And I definitely feel that with the community of parents who are all dear friends to me that I've made in Brisbane. And Brisbane has been the most amazing city for the girls and I now to live in and have that sense of community.
Yeah, I agree. I just went to Brisbane not too long ago because my uncle lives there, and it has such a family-oriented feeling. Even in the city, wherever you go, actually, everything is very family-friendly.
Everything. And the fact is that Brisbane is a city to be reckoned with on a global scale. Arts and culture, education, the Olympics are coming, and, sports. There's nothing as a pillar that makes a great city that Brisbane doesn't have. And so what's the linchpin that, embraces all of that is the fact that Brisbane has great people and great families and great communities. And that really does provide Brisbane with the ability to be such a livable city and such a city in demand from everyone around the world.
And the weather doesn't hurt either.
Yeah. Or beautiful one day, perfect the next.
Yeah, that's right. My auntie was saying it's either great or perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can say, yes, auntie, we agree. We would just like a little bit less flooding, please.
Yes, that's
if we
right.
could just ask for that, because of all the poor people that genuinely suffer and lose so much through the floods. But other than that, we can definitely say that Brisbane is absolutely perfect.
Megan, if we could go back to that time when you were 21 and you were thinking about leaving Australia, knowing what you know now, if you could give yourself, your younger self, one advice, what would that be?
Oh my gosh, just one. I'm so bad at ever narrowing things down. But, I would say to my younger self, don't ever settle. Don't settle for mediocre roles. Don't settle for mediocre men. Don't settle for mediocre salaries. Don't settle for mediocre people in your life. And so know your value and know who you are and what you're worth. And that there's so much joy and happiness and a wonderful life ahead.
That's awesome. Thank you for that. And what's your alpha mum song?
Oh, look again, Jane. We are hard in the care girl house to settle for one. What we lack in natural talent, we make up for in enthusiasm and complete denial that we one day won't be backup singers for Delta Goodrich. So,
what do you mean backup singers?
That's right. That's a centre stage. Even though my amazing position with Opera Queensland is obviously in the operational business side, I'm forever telling our artistic director that I'm waiting for the call up. It's been 4 years. If someone goes sick or if we're all out of superstars, will today be my day? And
You're always there.
No. Yes. But for the care girls in our car, our care girl car karaoke, and for me, we are big Glee fans, so
nice.
Don't Stop Believing by Glee is always something that we're belting out on the way to school. Or I don't really know a car that at the moment with any amazing men or women in it that aren't belting out About Damn Time by Lizzo.
Oh yeah.
And then I would say personally for me, through the last few years that have had personal challenges, the Dixie Chicks have become my sorority and have provided me with anthems that
good old country song.
I've totally, so Gaslighter and Julia Calm Down may have just gotten me through the last few years in my personal challenges, without a doubt. And a big shout out to the Dixie Chicks and the director for that, for knowing me so well.
You're not the only one, Megan. Oh, great. Thank you so much for that. Now, if there is one advice that you can give to all breadwinning mums listening, but especially somebody who is going through relationship dynamics, that could be tricky, what would that be?
Look, I would say to be kind to yourself and forgive yourself for whatever mistakes you make. A life isn't worth living if you don't learn and live from your mistakes, and be kind. And for me, find out what it is for you that gives you that confidence when you might be lacking it, and how you're going to fake it till you make it. I live for a spray tan, and on my weakest days or my most challenging days.
You're in Brizzy. You don't need it.
I know, but we're all about sun smart here, Jane. So hello, none of us are actually tanning. However, that orange tangerine coat of armour that I sometimes might need is what it takes to have me walk in and have that little bit of confidence that I might be lacking in that day. And those days don't happen very often, but thank God for me for the spray tan. And I would say, surround yourself with amazing women and don't ever underestimate the power of friendship and mentors.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Megan. It's been so lovely to have you.
Thank
and
you.
Best of luck.
Thank you so much. It's been lovely to talk to you too, and I wish you all the best as well.
Thank you so much for listening to Breadwinning Mums. Please subscribe and leave us some feedback so we can continue to make the show better for you. If you know a fellow breadwinning mum, please share the show so we can cheer each other on. Until next time.